Welcome to Casually Dressed Deep Conversation with me, Greg Chalmers, and as always, my co-host is, again, my sort of clothing doppelganger for 2 weeks running. It's Christopher Shields. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. It's honestly, we haven't. This isn't planned. It's just 2 weeks in the bounds. We've turned up and gone, and we're wearing the same thing again.
We've even got the same hat on.
I know, exactly.
Our guest this evening is children's author and business consultant Paul Walsh. How are you, Paul?
Very well, boys. Thank you very much. Of course, thank you for having me along this evening. Looking forward to it.
Not a problem at all, man. Not a problem at all. So, this podcast has kind of been built on one question. How was your lockdown?
How was my lockdown? Well, I'll try and make it as less as probably a generic answer is probably what most would come. I suppose, without trying to sound too cheesy, I try to take the positives out of situations, and actually the children's books that I've written as a prime example of turning a negative into a positive is something that I've created off the back of lockdown. So I think it was I probably would have been May, June time last year where I kind of linked in with ultimately one of my best mates of all time, Graham Young, who's the illustrator for PMGJ Storybooks. And I said, I've got this daft idea. Do you fancy bringing it to life with some pictures? And then it kind of just transformed from there, to be completely honest. So the lockdown itself was obviously a bit pish as far as things are concerned. I've got 2 young kids, so trying to homeschool one, and their youngest daughter, Caitlin, she's kind of 1 at the time, 2 now. So trying to entertain, basically somebody like that was pretty tough going. Mm-hmm. And just ultimately try to be a kind of half decent husband as well. It provided its challenges to everybody. I'm not going to sit here and say it was any tougher for me or us was for anyone else, but I tried to make the best out of it, guys, and here we are. Basically a year later, what was a concept as far as the children's books was concerned is now a reality, and not that it's actually almost a kind of 3 times reality, because we've actually just released our 3rd book in the space of, I think it's about 9 months since we actually had the first one published. So as I say, positive as far as I'm concerned.
So what was the catalyst to release children's books?
Well, anyone that knows me will know that I'm a bit daft, and I don't mind. I don't hide that either. So maybe as a warm up into this conversation, you might kind of get a better flavour for that. But I've got 2 kids, as I said. Aiden, he's 10, so I've had 10 years of acting like a big kid, and I've absolutely loved every minute of it. And during that time, I've come up with silly songs. I've written down silly stories. My dad, actually, he was, I suppose when I really think back to things, he was a bit like me. He had his own wee stories, never got them written down or published, but he certainly had them. All these funny wee characters. Prince Snipper was one. Crocodile or something like that always stuck to me. So the catalyst is probably already, it's probably already been there as far as something's been creative has always been burning inside me. And I've got a very musical background as well, and I've tried to kind of tie that into the stories as well. Keeps me ticking over from a creative side of things, which has probably been lacking in a big part of my adulthood, to be completely honest. So
So where does the inspiration for the stories come from?
Definitely the family. Yeah, so there's 4 of us in the house plus the dog, Buddy, and he's a wee rascal, I suppose. And if you're observant, I think it's easy in life just to let life kind of pass you by. And every now and again, I do make a very conscious effort of just pausing and saying, right, what just happened in the last kind of 2 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that. Mm-hmm. And more often than not, there's something totally and utterly daft in there. And that kind of provides its own inspiration. So the first book that we really went for, Fash Chaps and Bands, it's called. And that's all based on, I'm sitting there making fish chips and beans for the wee ones. And I start singing, do you like fash? Do you like chops? Do you like bands? Fash, chops and bands. And then my boy's like that. He's like, what was that? And I was like, do you like fash? Just start winding him up. And he's like, stop that. The windows are open and the neighbours are hearing you, and I'm just like, go you live Ash. Next thing you know, the neighbours are like, go you live Ash. I was like, I'm making a story at that. I'm making a story. Don't care what you say. Make it. Oh. all about Fash. All about Fash. There you go.
That's class. I love that.
Chris has got 2 kids. I am childless. I've not been graced with children, so I just think of myself. But Chris, do you do that with any of your kids? You're not really a singer. You're more physical comedy, just by looking at you.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I think we do stupid things. I tend to kind of just like, with me, what we do is sort of like flash them these stupid looks. Like, there's just one of those things where you like, we start doing something and what's it with Darcy? I don't know why I this thing with Darcy. I keep telling her that she smells like beef. She's like, you smell like beef. What? What do I do? And I don't know why. It's just
complex.
I know. I'm just beating her down. But I don't know. Yeah, it's one of those things. You've got loads of like these stupid little things that you just. I don't know exactly what you're saying. It's like I've Darcy's eldest's 5, and it's just 5 years of just license free getting to act like a child, and in public as well. You can just run around like a dafty, and people are like, "Look at him being a good dad." And you're like, "I have been wanting to do this my whole adult life." Running around the supermarket with my coat and my like hood in my head like that. It's brilliant.
It's so true though. It's so true because I don't know how old you boys are right enough, but like when I had Aiden, I was 23, so you know quite a young dad. Scheme of things, or a young parent, and none of my other mates had kids. You know what I mean? It was just me. I didn't really know how to act. Didn't really know how to suppress those surges of "you smell like beef" or whatever. You know, I didn't really know, but you kind of learned, you know, as you're going to get older to realise that actually, who cares what other people think? And you know, life's all about kind of. Some people like you, some people don't. It's very subjective, I suppose, in that way. So yeah, I just think, you know, kind of being a parent it just provides you with so much opportunity to have a laugh. And there's too many rubbish things out there in life to get stressed and upset about. So, you know, really nurture. And that's what I'm not even. This is just that I get really passionate about it because it's rubbish out there for a lot of it, and you know, I just think we really need to kind of nurture our kids as best we can in a positive way, and you know, keep them smiling, keep them happy, keep them being creative. And it's hard in this day and age because, you know, there's iPads and phones and all that kind of stuff going on, and I just want my kids to kind of, you know, just get down and just draw a picture. Like that's hard to do. You know, I'm not going to sit here and have a go at my 10-year-old, but it's hard to get them to sit down and picture. You don't want me to draw? I don't care. Just draw something. You know, I don't care. I don't care. I think we're kind of lacking that, and that's what our business, I suppose, is trying to build an ethos of, if that makes sense. It's just like, right, let's get back to being creative and just get folk writing stories, kids writing stories, even adults get adult writing stories, because everybody's got a story in them. That's what I say. So kind of get it in, get it done.
I think it's important for kids to be kids, isn't it? I think like I've spoke to numerous people about this before, that kids are growing up too fast. And I mean, I'm 33 and Chris is 34, right? And so we're not exactly old, but and when we were kids, even when I was like 15, we were out skateboarding and running about in the woods and all that sort of stuff. See a 14, 15-year-old now, none of that's happening. They're growing up too fast, mate.
You certainly don't see it as much on this what we did, because like, so I'm the same. I'm 34 on Saturday. No need to wish me happy birthday or sing in. It's absolutely fine.
So you don't want me? It's like
no, you're right. I think when we were growing up in our ages, you were on the streets like every night, no matter what the weather was. You were out. You were kicked out the house, to be honest.
Yeah.
Everything seems to have got a bit. I don't know. Maybe we were the Raj era or something like that. Too many Asbos and all that kind of stuff. Who knows? And now you're kind of needing to tone it down for the current generations. I don't know.
Because I was at quite a few of my friends have got kids. I was at my pal Jason's house about a month ago, and one of his wee boys was there, and then they had another set of friends there who also had kids, and the two wee boys are good pals now, and they were like, oh, one of them's like, oh, can I go home so that I can play him on Xbox? And I'm like, you want to leave your pal to go to your own house to play with him? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And I do think, without trying to maybe get a bit too serious or whatever, but it's going to have an impact on the way people develop socially.
Wait, I mean, it has. I mean, even the last year's had an impact on how people interact socially. I mean, like you see it now, like people. It's so strange. You can walk down the street, and like I'm living in Northern Ireland at the moment, and people are more. I found you can walk past somebody and say hello, and people say hello back. Maybe like people are less, or a lot more, but like anxious about actually speaking to somebody in the street, somebody that they don't know, especially.
Yeah.
But I think it's just one of those. It's the way it's going. Obviously, the way it's had to go in the last year at least.
Yeah.
I think
but this whole hyper connectivity thing, it's actually bringing people closer together. In actual fact, it's having the opposite effect. It's.
Definitely.
But anyway, I digress. So actually, what I want to know is, how do your kids feel about the books?
Jaden initially started off being quite kind of like, oh, this is cool, I'm in a book. And as our following has grown, I think he starts getting some comments to some of his mates at school being like, not so much that, oh, your dad's an author or a writer or whatever, but more so because, and I've got it here, more so because now and again I dress up with this wig, right? And I'll not put it on, it's a bit but we kind of create, I say we, right, but I created a kind of like a mascot character for the storybook, just so that we could start to venture into like doing like short videos and things like that as well. And I think a few of his mates have seen me dressed up basically as an American guy in a wig who is just eccentric, like, and he just kind of takes a piss out of everything, but he's kind of quite super serious about it as well. So it's kind of got that sort of ironic value to it as well from that kind of perspective. He's quite happy. Caitlin hasn't got a clue what. She just points at the pictures and goes, "That's Daddy, that's Mummy, that's me," and you're like, "Yeah, sound."
Yeah. Darcy does that with books. He will insist that I change the name of whatever character is in that book to Darcy, and it doesn't matter who it is. She's like, no, that's not. I don't know, Fred. That's Darcy. And you're like, right, okay. And then you have to read through and you have to remember which character correlates to who. And she will sit there and she'll make you go back. She'll be like, no, Daddy. No. Back you go, fat lad. Say it again.
You're training a tiny narcissist.
Oh man. She came out that way, right? Honest.
Listen, I think, and I'll probably get dropped for saying this, but I think girls think, like, because he rules this house, like our wee one, he just rules this house, and like to your point, Chris, you'll just turn around and you'll be like, no, this is how it's going to be.
Yeah.
And you're just like, okay.
It's like, that's it, yeah. Like, just completely outnumbered and outgunned. The only male backup I've got in the house is the dog.
And even he thinks you're a prick.
He creates more problems than he fixes. You know what I mean? You're like,
So, Paul, tell me, your background in business consultancy, did that come in handy when you were putting the books out?
Not quite, no, because it didn't really work that way. So I worked with a big UK corporate bank, I suppose, up until the end of December. I was offered the opportunity to apply for redundancy in about sort of September, October time. I worked there for 12 years, 13 years I think it was actually in the end. And I'd kind of just had enough of that kind of thing. I started there when I was like in the early 20s. And I've kind of mentioned this already actually, but at a time where I had to mature really quickly because I was a dad. I kind of felt like I ended up pursuing something like a career that ultimately I wasn't really happy with.
Right.
And I suppose I kind of, in some ways, played the game. Suit, shirt, tie, nice shoes, nice man bag, briefcase thing going on.
A
Down
satchel.
to London. As Joey would call it, it's a men's satchel. Sorry, big Friends fan here. And just, I was down in London, Birmingham, all these kind of places, with work, and I don't know, just like it never excited me. And ironically enough, like the less I tried, the more advanced I ended up getting. It's weird, and not that I would underperform or be a tube about things or anything like that. It was just like I kind of, you kind of just got into positions of like management and leadership, and I was just like, oh man, like, is this what I'm going to do for the rest of my life? So, I was kind of offered the opportunity to apply for that, and I'm going to say fortunately, I don't know how many people say fortunately I was made redundant. So with that, I'm not going to have a go at what I've just done there. It was just motivationally, it wasn't for me.
100%.
I learned a great deal of transferable skills doing that type of stuff. Risk management was my kind of profession. So I learned all about strategy and all the things that could impact the ability to achieve your strategy, thinking about sort of risk analysis and cost versus controls, all this sort of stuff that actually I'm still quite passionate about, and I bring that across to Elevate, which is my kind of consultancy type business. So I now work with individuals who are kind of stuck in a career, a little bit like I was. I work with people that are trying to get promotions in that type of corporate environment. So whilst I don't want to work in there anymore, I still want to help people progress their goals and their visions and all that type of stuff. And also work with small businesses as well, to ultimately help them strategize and take the next step in their business. So that might be turning your selling stuff on Facebook into having an e-commerce site, or something like that. So you're opening up this world of a market of as big as you really want to go, depending on what you're trying to help with people. So to answer your question around did that help, it was, I suppose I had a lot of good skills that I'd learned from working in the banking industry, but nothing can really prepare you for running your own business.
No.
Because, and I don't know if, I think you guys have got your sort of the clothing range, if I'm right in saying, is that right?
Yeah.
And apologies, I don't know how kind of advanced or how big that is.
We're in the early stages.
The early stages, it's the most exciting part, and ultimately, it's going to come down to, I'm not going to try and take your voice out of our eggs or anything like that, but it'll come down to your strategy and where you go with it. The Storybooks was exactly the same, and that was my first time creating a business. I've made some really good decisions, made some pretty shitey ones as well, to be completely honest. Didn't market ourselves correctly to start with. Probably rushed one of the books through, because you're kind of riding that wave of everybody was buzzing about your first one. And so you kind of live and learn by these types of things. So I just think I've been given some really good sort of mentoring and advice from my business side of things, and two of the things that this guy says to me is, firstly, most people are winging it.
Oh,
100%.
Because you look at some people and think, oh man, that guy's got it together, but it's not necessarily the case under the surface. Another one is if you really take your time, strategize properly, really work on your goals and really commit to them, and that's the biggest thing, is about commitment. Commit to what you really want to do, and good guys are good guys, and they'll kind of shine through at the end of the day. So stick to who you are. So,
do you know the thing would be? I've been self-employed. I've ran businesses for a decade. I've been self-employed for a decade, and do you know that? And you hear a lot of people talking a good game. Oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. See, the biggest thing that holds people back is obviously a lot of self-doubt and stuff like that as well, but actually having the balls to actually do it and go, well, I'm going to put my own fortune and potential success in my own hands.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? And charge forward. That's a big thing. Like I at one point I had like 13 or 12 photographers working for me, and every one of them would have been away have told me I'm only doing this for a wee while, and then I'm going to go out and do my own, and go on my own. And out of 12 of them, I think only one of them did. Everybody else still needs that safety net. Because it's an entrepreneur or somebody who's in business for themselves, it's a certain mindset. You work. You've got people that think, oh, it must be amazing working for yourself. You don't have to get up at 8 o'clock in the morning and all that. I'm like, I know, but you have to work harder. You think 40 hours a week? Christ, you have 40 hours in 4 days. Do you know what I mean?
And you're spot on. It's a lot of your mates, or not a lot of my mates, but certainly a few of them have said like, "Oh, you're coming out on that Thursday night. We'll book things in. We'll go for you're your own boss. You can do what you want." You're like, right, I am my own boss. I can do what I want. But actually, what I also need to do is I need to chase down leads. I need to make sure that my marketing's on point. Social media is a massive audience for me, so I need to make sure that's all planned out. I need to do 101 things before I can even think about going for a beer with my mate.
Yeah.
P.S. It's no easy just to go for a beer with your mate. That's the crux of the story. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Plus,
100%. And you add on top of that 2 kids as well.
Exactly. So it's hard going.
A whole lot harder.
but that's what it comes down to. Ultimately. Some people just don't. They're just kind of quite blinkered, and that's fine. Some people are just like that. But the ones I think sometimes the kind of the mates, so to speak, who are at the early stages of a business, the ones that you really appreciate as the guys that are ultimately like behind your back without you even knowing, just singing your praises and drumming it into people through no kind of no benefit to themselves. Just ultimately, I want to see my mate do well, or I want to see my partner do well, or I want to see this guy just go and make something of himself. And it's funny, Greg, what you say, putting your own worth and your own fortune almost on the line to do it. That's what I've done, and you take. I was getting a hard time. My missus will be the first to admit that she was like, doing. You should be taking that redundancy. You should be sticking it in the house. You should be treating the kids to a massive holiday. You should be treating me to whatever I want to get. And all that sort of stuff. Actually, that was number one.
I know. And you're at the back of the line, son. You've got a wee pair of shoes with it.
Exactly. Aye. So it's one of these things, isn't it? And but that's what a marriage is. Ultimately, it's a partnership, isn't it? And ultimately, I had to say, look, I'm not happy in what I'm doing, and I'm not been happy for a long time. And to the point where that's actually going to start impacting, or probably was impacting, my performance as a husband, as a dad, as a mate, whoever. It just wasn't happy.
Yeah. It takes a lot as well. It takes a lot to sit and go, do you know what? This now is no longer for me. Like especially like I mean, was it 12 years you said you'd done?
30, I think, in the end.
So I'm actually very, very similar. And I joined the army, and I've done 14 years in the army. And it was I got that point where it was kind of, I mean, at first it was brilliant. It was dead exciting, and I was away here, there, and everywhere. And then it gets to a point where when you get to a certain rank, the kind of running about and kind of all the kind of the physical, like the things that sort of sold you on the army first off, like initially, they've diminished, and before you, and you're now sat wearing all the camouflage stuff, just driving a desk, go and fucking, and then chasing people up to be like, have you got your vaccinations? Have you told me your objectives for the year? What are your aspirations? To some kid who's looking back at you just on energy save mode, going, I don't know. I don't know. That's my like. So yeah, I was very, very similar. But it got to a point where I was like, this now is no longer doing it. I need to make a change.
I just think. Do you know what the one thing? Days that I've heard like so many people use, and I've only just cottoned onto it in like 5-6 months of running this business, is what's your career? And I'm like, right, what's your career? So singular. So people can only have one career. Is that the mindset that people have got themselves into? And that just frustrates me, because sometimes all you just need to say to people is, look, sitting here at 34-year-old, you've got another 30 years to work, roughly, right? Unless you're doing brilliant, fantastic, and you've got a great savings and all that sort of stuff, right? But let's just say for easy maths, right, you've got another 30 years to work. That's a long, long time. It's a long time to be feeling a bit rubbish about yourself and about what you're actually achieving in life. So some people find hobbies, and that keeps them happy. Other people find relationships, that keeps them happy. But for a lot of people, there's a burning desire just to stop and just go 20 degrees to the left and go, I'm going to fire in here.
Mhm.
And it comes back to the kind of the phrase I suppose you've used, Greg, which is take balls.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, you need to have some sort of, like, you can't be crazy. You've got to,
No.
again, I'm going to use the word strategize. You've got to think about it financially, and all that kind of stuff as well. But realistically, there's not much stopping you from doing that other than your self-doubt, and it's a big hurdle to overcome. But when you overcome it, wow, like, there's a world out there, and go for it, like, you know.
But that's, I think, as well, as it comes from that whole what's your career comes from. It's a legacy thing. I mean, you don't have to look too far back to see, like, we've got grandparents or uncles and kind of who've just went to school. Right, that's it. You go to school, you come out, you're a joiner, off you go, work as a joiner, and that's you. You're done. Or you're going to go work in that factory, and then till you're finished, and then that's you. But you got a good pension out of it. I mean, so that's just kind of how it was. I think definitely the people's attitude towards that's no longer a thing where people just go and just work in one place anymore. So, and it's now because people have got that kind of through time, people became more fluid in where they physically worked. I'm like, well, I don't need to now do the same things. I can just complete. What's stopping me go and do something else? I think it's taken and kind of until kind of, I say now because it happened now. It's happened for me. I mean, in the last year and a half, I've done very similar. Just kind of went right, no, away and go do something else. Completely relocated, and just got to try and do something different in you.
Yeah, it's and people going back to university at 30. Do you know what I mean? People, do you know what I mean? It's you're right. You are right, Chris. It is a legacy thing. It's something that generations gone by. You're right. You were a plumber. You were a plasterer. You know what I mean, and that's you. 100% right. I want to get back onto the books, but because I'm interested to know about how the process actually how it happens. So you've got an idea, and from that idea, how do you actually get to the end when there's a book?
Aye, so that's cool. It's a cool question. We've kind of just launched a service called Publish Me, which ultimately takes it from or helps people take their concept to that kind of physical held in hand product. So I'm sure different people have different processes, but what I've kind of learned, what we've learned as a business is getting your ultimately, you need to get your story down on paper first, and then it's more about getting it sort of checked through, getting it checked, I would say, professionally through like an English professional or a teacher or somebody that you trust. Ultimately, that's going to do you a kind of good deed that way. And I suppose that's, with all respect to that side of things, that's kind of like the boring part, I suppose. And then it starts to get quite interesting. So for me, what I do is I get the story down, I get it all checked, and then when I've got that's done, and then I start working with Graham, the illustrator, and I kind of put notes, like almost like illustrator notes down, and I say, right, this is what, when I write this sort of part of the story here, this is what I'm seeing, and I want like, what have we got? Like I got like an alien who lands in the garden. I want you to come and basically scope out my garden, and I want them landing over there on the right hand side, and I want these big bright lights, and I want the kids to be like mesmerised by the kind of the different colours. So I want it very rainbow-like or something like that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'll write all that down, and then Graham will go and do something totally different.
You're like, I see your notes. C-, must do better. This is what you're getting instead.
I see your notes, but I'm the artist.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes. So,
Yeah.
So basically, it's a bit of a kind of to and fro. So I'll give him the ideas. He'll kind of take it, and then we'll kind of just do a bit of back and forth. Everything's so quick these days because he actually sketches on the iPad.
All right.
So he's got some really cool equipment now where basically you can sketch with the iPad pen, but it makes it feel like paper as well.
Yeah,
it's totally cool, stuff. So he can do that, and so he can basically send me sketches. Like he'll send me see when he gets on it. Like, he'll be working at 2-3 in the morning, and when he's on it, he's just on it. I'm getting pinged, like I need to switch my phone, or I don't even know how to switch his phone off, but I need to turn it on silent, put it under a pillow on the floor because it keeps buzzing in that. And then I get up in the morning, I've got these 10, 12 images or something, and I'm just like, wow. because all of a sudden my stories just come to life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes it so cool, because as I said at the start, me and Graham are lifelong pals. We've known each other forever, so we know how each other work. I know what kind of makes him tick, he knows what makes me tick, and he's really good and really understanding about, he learns really quickly about the things that I like and what I don't. And he'll not admit this, even though it's a 50-50 partnership, but I'm the boss. So what I say at the end of the day kind of goes, do you know what I mean, when it comes to all this type of thing. So once that's done, as I say, we're toing and froing with images, and ultimately, because you know yourself, if you're thinking about something creative, you just want it to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a lot of manipulation, if that's the right word to use. There's a lot of pernickety stuff, and that can really piss each other off, I'll be honest. But you get through it. And then comes the more business side of things, I suppose, which is actually being able to get yourself. So you've got to get it printed for a start. So you've got to be able to. You've got to have a good partner in that aspect. We're working with our printers, South, who turn around the books really, really quickly. But we've got to think about getting the books onto Nielsen Book Services or Book Data. It's like the official library for every book that there ever was, type thing.
Wow.
So we basically buy the rights to publish 10 books ultimately at a time. And that we upload all that data. So as I say, it's pretty boring, all this stuff.
No, it's just that.
It's what you need to do in order to make a viable, legitimate product. And by doing that, then all your kind of big online retailers can pick up the book as well, ultimately. With your Waterstones, all your kind of outlets that are on Amazon and all that kind of stuff as well. So bringing it all together takes a hell of a lot of admin stuff as much as the creative side. In fact, actually, the admin stuff is more challenging than the creative stuff, because as artists, whether you want to call a writer an artist or not, I don't know, but as creative artists anyway, that's fun, that's cool, that's what you love doing. The business side of things isn't necessarily what you love doing, but you kind of put up with it in order to get your product out there, and ultimately get it like into the hands of like as many kids as you can, because it's the feedback that we've started to get is just, you can see me because I'm absolutely cheesing, because these are my stupid head stories that are now like there's like mums and dads like around the country, down south in England, where we've sold in Northern Ireland. We've got, there's literally families everywhere that are like, "Oh, your life." You know what I mean? It's just like, this is brilliant, man. And there's like the best one, the best bit of feedback, or the best story I heard was a guy or a family that that I worked with. Ultimately, they managed to pick the book up, and they live in India, so they must have got it via like India, Amazon, or something like that. And she sent me a picture. She was like, "Oh, I've got your book. What is fash?"
That is incredible.
I was like, I need to hear her sing that song. Right? That would be just amazing. So I don't know if I answered your question. So I get
no, it's all right. Listen, it's all right. So what I was going to ask you is, see, because it's a children's book, is there some form of vetting process with if you're putting children's books out, or can you just put them out? And...
Do you know what? It's a great question, because we've been local press and all that kind of stuff. I'm not sure if any of these guys have actually read our stuff. If they've picked up, certainly don't bought it direct for us. But I suppose you'd be called out pretty quickly if your stuff was controversial. I think, especially in this kind of social media age, you're literally, you've got it in your hand. If you want to destroy somebody's reputation, you can pick up pretty quickly.
Well, you're 160 characters away from destroying your own reputation. Do you know what I mean?
After a few years,
yeah, absolutely.
Do you know what I think? I think these are all arseholes.
Buy my book.
I'll slap you with fash.
I think is there a vetting process? There should be, in my opinion, but as far as I'm aware, if there is one, I don't know about it. And if there is one, we're all right, because we've managed to get away with it.
So, see that process from the idea to actually having it in your hand, how long does that take, roughly?
So it's kind of, it all kind of varies, right? So Graham, the illustrator, he's the biggest reliance is on him. That's the biggest part of the process. He's got a full-time job. as well as doing his kind of arty stuff as well. So I'd say on average you're maybe looking at about 3 months. But if he was working full time on it, I think you could cut that in half.
Wow.
And that would still give you enough time to just to kind of do that back and forth, feedback and constructive elements to it. I'll give you a good example, right? We are working on our first Scots dialect book, right? It's called Here's a Mixed Scarfs. So it's about 10 Scottish animals with 10 Scottish names visiting 10 Scottish locations, and they're part of the clan Mixed Scarfs, right?
Okay.
Graham sends me over. I says to him, I was like, and it's very basic, by the way, as well, but it's all like, here's Gregor the Grouse, wandering about St Andrews. What's it holding or something like that, and he's got golf clubs on his back and he's got the cathedral in the back. Or we put in a couple of fictitious ones. Hamish the Haggis up Old Reekie Castle.
Right.
Up Old Reekie, or whatever. I wrote it and I can't even remember, right? But, but it's all that sort of stuff. So it's like an introduction for children, right? About this is your language, this is how people really speak, right? And also from a tourism or a tourist perspective as well. All of a sudden I was like, oh man, this could be awesome. Like imagine somebody coming from a different country and picking up this book and going, who's Elsie the Eagle?
No.
You know what I mean? Like fleeing a Lomond or something. So, so what happened with that one is I gave him all the feedback and they provided 10, and honestly, mate, I was like, wow, it's like these images are superb, like, absolutely superb. They're very bold, very colourful, just so vibrant. I was like, when I showed like a daughter, for example, who she's only 2, but that's not far away from the audience that would probably be looking at for that type of one. She was like, wow, really pointing at, really engaged. I was like, brilliant. Then all of a sudden, I was like, I thought we were ready to go. And then Graham's like, nah, I'm not happy with that. I wanted to do a double-page spread of the images. I wanted to do more detail. I wanted to do this and that. I was like, it's probably the first time that I've ever been like, nah, I'm not agreeing with you here, mate. Like, no, this is going to be our first argument. No. It's going to be a big one. No. It's my show. You know what I mean? It's our show. And I was just like, I was like, hey, fine, go away and do it then. But I tell you something, that'd be good. and he sent me over like version 8 or whatever it was, and I was like, mate, you have absolutely nailed it.
Aye.
And it just shows you that yes, you can put these together quickly, but I'm a guy that I do like to go 100 mile an hour. I do like to get things done. I am a very committal type, if that's even a word. I just like to kind of get in and get it done. And Graham was just, he's quite good at kind of putting the brakes on sometimes and going, actually, this is not my best work. And actually, Paul, it's probably not yours either. I know. So that bit. As I said, I was like, I'm a semi-pro, or used to be a semi-pro boxer. I've had like 4 fights, mate. I'll knock you out.
Who you talking to?
TKO, Walsh man, this is it. So the learning is don't rush it, and we've in that time of pausing, we've applied for like a Scottish Books Trust grant. We've really thought about the marketing side of things. We've really kind of thought, we always knew who the target audience was, but what we never really considered, or what I never really considered, was if we just spend a little bit more time on it, we can really market this like super duper well and open up a kind of a sales funnel opportunity that we never considered at the start, and that is very much the tourism side of things. Try to get into like book bug market, and just in case you aren't aware, which is like certain points where like the Scottish government will release books for free to the kids of like when they're first born. If you think about like when your kids were born, Chris, you might have got like a wee bag of stuff, and there would be like books in that. That's that book bug market. It's like in partnership with the government and Scottish Book Trusts and things. Right. And all of a sudden I was like, the government in general are crying out to protect Scots language and dialect. Yeah. And where better place to start than your kids, right? So
100%. What? Yeah.
I was just like, let's go for it. And fingers crossed, we should find out in the next couple of weeks if we've been successful in obtaining a kind of small grant. But even though financially it's quite small, it'll really kind of help open a few doors for us, and
definitely,
and ultimately help us get more of our product out there, because we've got a bit more money for maybe the marketing side of things ultimately. So it's really exciting, man. Like, you know what, it's like I'm more buzzing about that in life than I am with most other things when it comes to like business and stuff, because it's just so exciting. And I just like people reaching out and giving you praise is obviously, it feels good, right? You know what I mean? To get like good feedback and that makes you.
I think it's you're making waves, man. Do you know what I mean? There's so many people out there, to use another water analogy, that are treading water. And if you're making waves, do you know what I mean? You're a happy chappy. I'm all about that. But
Absolutely.
what I was going to ask you is, have you ever thought? See, because of the Scots dialect thing, obviously the words, if you read them, they might not be pronounced the same way. Have you ever thought about doing like a YouTube companion with the animation of the characters?
No. Basically, is the answer to that. So I'll.
You can have that one for nothing. No, the reason I was just, do you know what way I was thinking? Because there's YouTube Kids, isn't there? Your kids watch that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And you could have something.
Flat out.
Do you know what I mean? You could do some form of animation with the Scots animals and stuff like that, and it would really lean into the whole sort of preserve the dialect thing. Do you know?
See, when I say no, I don't mean it like, oh, we've no thought about that. The real answer is we've thought about like 101 things, but we've got no money.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I say we've got no money, but like this was started off as a self-funded project, right? And that's what it was. It was like a hobby, a project, and it's kind of flourished into something a little bit bigger. And ultimately, we don't have the skill set to be able to put animation together. That's as simple as that. Yeah. So Graham, great artist, he's got a couple of programs, and he put something together probably about, I don't know what was it, maybe a couple of months ago. He said, how cool would this be? And I said, mate, that's absolutely brilliant. How long did that take you? Whole weekend. And it was about like 9 seconds of stuff. And I was like, mate, concentrate on drawing the images for the book. We'll come back to that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, but it was maybe a bit longer than 9 seconds, but it was really, really good. It was actually what it was is the dad and the Fast Chaps and band playing the guitar. That's what it was, and it was just it was probably repeated a few times, so it was probably less than 9 seconds actually.
Wow.
He just duplicated it a few times to make it longer.
It's like Scooby Doo when they're running along a hallway, and it's just like bookshelf, clock, painting, bookshelf, clock, painting.
Listen, you don't know where things are going to take you, and I'm a massive fan of like networking and collaboration, and we're starting to make more connections in the literary space. I know you've had like Aiden Martin on. In fact, Aiden actually recommended you guys or me to you guys. And
yes, that's right. Yeah.
So Aiden's from just up or down the road, depending on where you're looking. And you know, we're trying to stay in contact with each other because we know that whilst our spectrum of what we're writing about is completely different, actually the core value of what we're doing is the same, which is getting a story out there. And ours has a few more images, but actually so does his book.
Yeah.
Cover. It's got insert. It's got all this kind of other stuff through the chap Mark Deans, who's like super talented artist guy as well.
Really good. He's really good.
Incredible, man.
All of a sudden, you're like, you've got this like a Livingston, West Lothian network there. Something that 6-9 months ago I'd never knew existed, and they never knew existed as well. So we're very keen to use each other in a positive manner. And I suppose that's very different than my experience than, let's say, when I was, I don't know, like I used to be in a band up until like I was about like 22, 23, and the music scene was very pitchy. It was very like, even if your music was totally different, like my band was very kind of like indie rock, Foo Fighters type stuff. You could have a band that were like heavy metal, and they were just like hating on you, or and vice versa as well. You know that? And you're just like, should we not really be like that, work together? But you would never really act like that because you simply weren't sure enough the bigger picture. But now it's different. It feels different. It feels more collaborative. It feels more like we're kind of in it together. And Aiden's got a kind of, almost very dark but almost uplifting kind of stuff going on with his first book, and I'm buzzing for his second as well, which sounds like it's going to be a roller coaster of stuff. And I'm speaking from a fan there. I'm not speaking as a. Sorry, that's my dog going mental. I'm speaking as a kind of as a kind of lover of reading in that scene, because even though I'm a children's book type writer, I still love the kind of the 18 plus type stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And that's just a world of inspiration in itself. Do you know what I mean? So
we've not made any secret about it. We are big fans of Aiden Martin. Not even just a writer, because so basically before he came on the podcast, we read his book, and I was just blown away. But actually, I was more impressed with him as a guy. Like,
he's a good lad.
Have you read Euphoric Recall?
Aye, I've read it twice now. My missus went to school with him, and that's how I was introduced to it.
Ah, right.
So, and it was weird because I met him earlier today. We were down Livy Centre for it was our first ever mandate. We've booked each other loads because of lockdown and all that. We've never actually met in person. So we spoke about it, and I was telling him that and again I'll put it back into that sort of whatever type attitude. 9 months ago, I was like, Caroline's like, my missus was like, "Me, you really need to read this, or you really need to read this book." It was a massive buzz, and I was like, "No worries, well, I'm doing my own thing." That's what I was like. And, you know what I mean? And then I'm sitting there like 9 months later, going like, "How would that be like that?" Right? You know what I mean? Then you read the first chapter of that book, you're like, "Oh, boy, man, I was not prepared for this at all."
It's the first. It's the chapter heading. Was it groomed or something? You're like,
aye.
Yeah, I was just. Do you know what? Like, I mean, me and Greg, because obviously we had the deadline of Aiden coming on the podcast. We're like, right, we need to have this book read by this point. So we were kind of at similar points throughout the book, and periodically we would just phone each other up and be like, "Whoa, mate, what?" And it was incredible, absolutely incredible.
Do you know, I made an observation about Aiden's book, and this is when we were talking about the illustrator. So see the face of that boy Martin. Is it Martins? Is that his name?
Yeah.
The illustrator did, because everyone thinks that that's meant to be Aiden, but I always thought that was the face of his higher power. That's how I saw it. That's the way I saw it. And Aiden was like, "Oh, I'm going to tell him that. He'll fucking love that." But he's a great guy. And do you know what the thing is? Even for our podcast, he's been brilliant for us, hasn't he? He's just the gift that keeps on giving.
Incredible for us, honestly.
Yeah.
He just keeps going, "You need to speak to this guy."
Yeah.
Excellent.
Smashing.
And he has not disappointed on us every time. You're like, "Oh, fantastic. Bring him on."
Have you heard of a boy called Paul Bogey?
No.
Right, so Aiden gave us this guy called Paul Bogey, and now this guy's story is a mental. He was for Edinburgh, and his story is basically he was a heroin addict at like 16, and then decided to clean his act up and joined the army at 30, and was then guarding the Queen.
Yeah,
and then
Scots Guards.
Aye, and then he was in a car accident. He was in a car accident and broke his spine and was like dishonourably not dishonourably. Sorry, Paul.
Medically discharged.
Medically discharged. And then found himself getting addicted to the painkillers that he was being prescribed by the doctor. And he was on I think he spoke for about 3.5 hours. But did he take breath? He was loving it. Do you know what I mean? But you need to read his book. It's called Heroin to Hero. Very, very good.
Aye, very, very good. But he was, and he now does all of his proceeds now go to solving homelessness in Scotland.
Yeah,
to trying to fix that and stuff. Yeah, he's another incredible character.
Just one of the guys. You're just like, wow, man, you've seen some dark stuff.
But it's just like this is like we're kind of going back to just like the power of a network. Mm-hmm. It's just like you look before, everybody was just like, "Oh well, this is my lane. I'm going to stick to this lane, and this is it. This is my channel." Mm-hmm. And nobody seemed to kind of speak to one another and want to help each other. It was all a case of, right, well, that's where we've got to be. I just need to be faster than you and you and you.
Yep.
Let's just get there. Whereas in actual fact, you go, by the way, guys, see if we actually all just kind of link in and help each other out, we're going to get there a little bit quicker. And actually, we'll probably find out that you're better at doing this. And it's incredible. I mean, like, you don't realise just like this podcast has been a representation of where our network has taken us and the avenues it's taken us, and it's just you didn't realise that we had kind of access to people who have achieved I mean, like we've had world champion boxers on, we've had
Paralympic gold medalists, Olympians.
Paralympic gold medalists, so one world number one wheelchair tennis player, like Olympians. We've had like authors, people who've got incredible stories, like Tom Delaney, comedians, and you just think, I'm just a guy who joined, like, left school and joined the army, and then come out, and all of a sudden I'm sat like discussing who knows what with somebody who's achieved something incredible. It really is. It's one of those things that you don't realise until I haven't realised until now how important a network is.
It is very important. So, gentlemen, before we finish up for this evening, I want to ask this kind of closing question, which is, where do you see it all going, and where do you hope for the whole thing to go?
I'll focus on the storybook stuff, because I think it's a bit more interesting. No disrespect to myself and what I'm doing with the consultancy side of things, which is in many ways I could speak about that stuff for days as well. But from a storybook side of things, so where do I see it going? So I'm a guy, and hopefully I've made this reasonably clear, is I'm a guy of visions and goals and all that kind of stuff. So the vision is that we are the go-to children's book self-publishing company. Mm-hmm. So if you've got a story, then you're going to come to us, and we're going to hold your hand. We're going to get you published. With the caveat it's got to be vetted by us. You know, and it's got to meet some sort of criteria. So, you know, it's got to be I suppose it's got to have the kind of core values that we would expect, right, for our stuff. And ultimately, I want to achieve that within the next couple of years. So that might sound quite quick to some people, but we've had a really good response through this Publish Me service. We were in the records on Saturday just there, and then we're in the kind of local West Lothian Courier as well. Interviewed this morning by West Lothian News. Got like a kind of nice video out there, and again we've just had, like, I think that's been like 5 or 6 people now since Saturday have reached out to say, I've got a story and I don't know where the comes going with it. Like, I don't know how to get it done. I don't know who can illustrate it for me. I don't know who can actually get it published. And ultimately what I'm saying to people is, well, basically where I see the business going is ultimately continuing my creative side of things, which is to write stories, and hopefully good ones at that. Continue to be daft and crazy, and help other people be daft and crazy and get their books. And it's all about, and I know people use this word all the time, but it's all about creating a legacy. So if you want to have something that you can look back on, you know, for you and your kids, or you actually just want to sit back and say, do you know what, I sold like 500 copies of a book once. Mm-hmm. Then I want to help you be able to do that. And I want to be able to help people do it because I know how much of a bollock it is to actually do it. and I know how bloody expensive some people will charge for it. And here's another thing, right? And I don't know if you've ever asked like Aiden or any other offers that you've had on here, but see, when you sell a book through a Waterstones or like Amazon outlets, you're making like nothing. Really? So it costs us maybe like £2 to make a book, and ultimately you're selling it onto these guys for like £2.80. So you're making like 80p for every book sale. Wow! Imagine that. So you know, when you hear somebody says like, "Oh, I've sold like 10,000 books," and you think, "Oh, you must be worth a wee bit." Probably not. No. Do you know? Probably not. Probably worth a bit. Man, right? So I was going to swear there. I shouldn't swear. Well, you boys are good at that. Yeah. But no, I think it's one of these things. So that's where I want to take the business as well. Is I want to use our platform, and I want to say to people, you can sell your book for £7.99, and you're going to make the vast majority of that is your profit. Yeah. You're not going to bend you over and have you getting peanuts back for it. If you're making 80p with Amazon, you're going to make £4 with us easy. Yeah. That's where I'm taking that business, and I'm going to make sure it's a game changer. I'm going to make sure that self-published authors have that option to actually make their money back. at the very least.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take a lot to make your money back when you're talking about those profit margins. And I'm speaking from experience because I know how many books we've sold and I know how much money we've put into the kind of scheme of it. So.
Yeah.
Mate, I want to go write a book.
Go and write it, mate, and I'll help you publish it. There we go.
Chris, you need to learn to read first.
I know, exactly. That's all right. Daughter's in primary 1. I'm learning with her. We're holding each other's hands through the process. I learned my hearts the other days.
Right, okay, gents. Well, we'll call it a night there. But Paul, listen, thank you very much for coming on and talking to us. By the sounds
where can people find your stuff?
Tell us.
Come on, man.
I know.
Aye, so you can find us in all of the major retailers. Better if you didn't drop there. So we've got our business. I've actually wearing my new t-shirt. Look. I don't know, it's been sitting here all day. I've only just realised that. Terrible marketing. PMGJ storybooks.com. The best thing to do is like go on Facebook and stuff like that and it'll take you'll be able to click links and stuff to the website. And we've got 3 published books now. But I've got here. I'll give you a quick show. So there's that's the Fast Chapters and Bands. Some musical influences really come out, so you can see like Elvis and Madonna, Bowie.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Ah, excellent.
So that one, Dum Dum the Zumbrum, which is there he is. He's a bit mental.
Didn't realise you knew Chris already.
That was his selfie. And that's the one that just
to be
came
part
out
of
this week.
something.
There you go. Is that you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that he hides in a suitcase and he goes underwater. He goes on holiday. And on holiday, he goes underwater.
Somebody trying to kill him.
Some mafia undertones here.
I know. Somebody threw him in the canal.
He's sleeping with the fascists.
Yes, that's very good.
Christopher Shields. That was class.
He just like mic drop. He's off.
I know. See you later on, boys. I'm off.
I've peaked.
But no, I know you're trying to close this up, but
That's all right.
there's the kind of 3 books that we've done as a kind of creative partnership. And as I say, 6 months, a year down the line, I want to have other artists on our website. So basically, it turned into like a children's bookstore. Well, it's a children's bookstore anyway, but it just turned into a bigger one with more options. Ultimately like that. Just that's where you find the stuff, and I'd love for you, or the viewers and all that kind of stuff, if they've got kids, to even have a wee peek at the website, have the Facebook stuff. As I said, I dress up now and again as an American private investigator called Chandler Jefferson. He's mental. We should have talked more about him, actually. I could probably give you a podcast in itself on that guy.
Excellent.
But go and watch the video.
We'll bring him back on. We'll get him booked in.
You've got to come in character. That's it. I like that. Hello.
Honestly, just go onto the Facebook, right, and just I'll have a couple of looks at the videos. Some of them are all right, and then there's other ones that is it like a riding school, like a horse riding school. We've got like a local one up here, and we're trying to do like a cross help of business. So like they're obviously snookered by the lockdown and stuff like that. So we kind of give them a bit more advertisement and all that kind of stuff. So we've done a video of like he's on a horse, learning how to ride a horse. He's like trying to be a cowboy and all that sort of stuff. Just stupid. I think I'm having some sort of midlife crisis or something like that. It's my job. It was doing really well. I'm just riding a horse. Where am I going? Jesus.
The lobby sat around the boardroom going, have you seen what Paul's doing?
And there's loads of hair flicking.
I love that. It's good.
So have a wee look at that, and you'll find all the details. And cheers for having us on. I've really enjoyed that.
Not a problem at all.
No problem at all. It's been brilliant. It's been really good.
Yeah, we'll put the link to the website on our social media when this comes out on Thursday. So there'll be a wee link on there. Right, I'm going to sign off just now, gentlemen. Thank you for listening, folks. Please hit those like and subscribe buttons.